I have a question about the Earth Elemental. Like, could you? I don't know how far away you need to be to construct an Earth Elemental, but could you make the Earth Elemental out of the sand and have it run over to us?
I do not make it.
Okay,
I do not make it.
First of all, that's correct, but she would have to be right
calling
there.
it.
Right. That's
Okay.
correct, but
Right.
it would have to be there. She would have to be there.
Right.
Whereas if
Okay.
she makes it here, it can go walking around and do errands.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I have to get as close, basically, as we were before, or
Okay,
where I was
no,
when I met you.
Helma, I think you're really starting to get a little bit confused about something. You can make the elemental right here.
But it can...
No. You can make it right here. And it will last for a certain amount of time. And during that time, it can go wherever it wants with its movement rate.
Okay, explain right here, because the time isn't... I don't think the time is that long.
You would get 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Closer is better, but you don't have to be on top of the basilisks again. You maybe almost you could get maybe as close as you were before, or maybe not.
Yeah, that was my thought.
Right, but not quite that close. You don't actually have to be in you can be a little bit farther away, and then
I'd say the place where I left my stuff the time before, a little bit away from the ridge.
Yeah, that would be fine because we are not talking about the distance of the spell. That's not what we are talking about.
No, I know.
No, we are
I was considering the time I have.
Yeah.
It has to get down there, it has to get the sand, and it has to come up again.
For 5 minutes, then I think that if you get to where you just said, that will be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Yeah. It's really, really.
Sparth is like, wait a minute, I don't have to go down there and fight basilisks?
That would be really great. And also, I get to see magic.
Right.
So, how common is magic in this context? I guess not.
I know.
Much.
I'm going to say, first of all, the three of you will have to go back to where she said, right?
Bad enough.
Right. And so the three of you do that. And probably walking a little bit carefully, wondering exactly when the hands are going to come up and get you. Although, remember, they were confined to that area just down there at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right.
But on the other hand, I think your own suspicions would still make you feel a little creepy, right? So
let me put it that way. I'm not going to peer over the rim.
That's enough of that. You go down there. Go down there. Okay, so
I can describe the place.
Yeah. So what?
Good enough.
What you say? You lay your hands. It says here you lay your hands on the ground.
I lay my hands on the ground and I summon it.
Right. And
so I suppose I'm going to chant something.
Right.
A little bit quietly.
Exactly. And what will form for Fareth and Vefselk to admire is a little kind of statue forms out of the rocks and the sand and the rubble, the dirt. And it is a strange little creature that looks like a duster, except that it is 5 times too broad. Right? It's really big and thick, even though it is shorter than all of you. And it even has kind of a weird little goblin face and look in its eyes. It kind of looks around, looks.
This guy will
finally looks directly at Ithasha.
And Ithasha is basically sitting on her heels in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And when he makes eye contact, she's going to explain to him what she wants.
Well, that's good.
She's going to describe the place down there and explain it to him and give him the pouches and send him down.
Which is good because he was already picking up a big rock that he was going to attack your obvious enemies with. Right.
I gathered that much.
So right.
I mean,
this is actually kind of funny. It looks at the rock. It looks at the rock that it picked up, and it looks over at Fareth and Vefselk, and then just kind of looks forward and drops the rock. Just drops the rock.
As he goes, I turn to Ithasha and say, "Is he going to be fine with the basilisks? I mean, It's
Yeah, it's not alive.
yeah,
And
it's
what
it's
are they
also,
going to do?
No problem.
I guess.
What are they going to do?
Yeah.
Turn it to stone?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So,
Don't worry.
yeah, and so it will
It will come back.
right. It will just it'll make its way down into that little area, and even if it falls, it's actually kind of interesting. I'm getting a pretty good image. At some point, it's going to lose its feet on the rock wall, and it will just fall and go crunch down on the bottom, and then it'll just reform and stand up.
Hmm.
Right.
If you bothered to look, you can tell me
Yeah.
afterwards.
Right. And so it might be even too fascinating for Farth to resist. He has to watch this, right?
Yeah.
And so sure enough, it goes. The basilisks rouse themselves and hiss and release their gas and stare at him and things like that. And it just completely ignores them and goes into the pool. The dead do not rise.
Hmm.
The dead do not rise.
Regarding the dead, I wanted to mention, knowing all that we know now, I will be looking at the area, like with new eyes and trying to see if there is anything
Right.
that gives me something to
Right. In that case,
speculate.
I want you to look at your skills and decide which. I don't think it's history. You've already rolled that one.
I have mythology lore. Maybe
That's
there is any
that's a good one.
sign.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Do that.
And no, you still have to do it, and I have 20%. It's
Okay.
next level, it will be better.
Okay. Well, the monster lore that you have come up with is only that it's kind of like a zombie myth, right? That when
Mhm.
people are living wrong and doing the wrong things and are immoral or make some gross moral mistake, that the dead will rise to punish them.
Okay.
And so the point is, you don't see them. You will certainly see pieces of some of them, which are just lying around on the ground after the fight, but that's all. And
Okay.
the gnome makes itself busy by scooping up sand and fills the containers that you have given it, and will come back. And 5 minutes is cutting it pretty close. I suspect that it probably won't make it back quite. It's walking toward you up at the top again, and before it gets the chance to actually get to you and hand them, it will just dissolve into a pile of rocks and dust with the bags sitting there.
Mhm. Good.
Well,
I'll go fetch the bags and just touch that file very shortly and thank it.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. And by the way, even you looking at this sand can say, "Oh, that stuff I was showing him, that was shit." Right.
I'm going to
So
bind
there you go.
Yeah.
and drop them on my neck.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh. So excellent. All right, everybody. I think that's it for today. Sam, are you sure there's nothing you want to roll? You didn't even get to be stealthy.
I did actually want to say I
Sorry.
have mythology, and I would
Oh,
like
that's
to
right.
know like what if maybe while the little gnome guy is going to get our sand, I was picturing Vefselk like just telling Farith
Right.
like the story of this place, and I
what's your
want to know
percent?
if it's the same.
What's your percent?
27.
Ah. Well, Vefselk will actually correct your somewhat George Romero concept of zombies. And because, Sam, what you get is that and this is mythology, okay? The interesting point here is that the command of the dead and contact with the dead isn't something that the dead do. Somebody living has to be involved with this. Somebody living is is necessary, and that therefore whoever set up this situation here was doing so from a very spiritual place, from a very if you don't know whether it's blasphemous or if it's reverent, but they were using, the logic of shamanic religion, totemic magic, and so the reason that you're able to, I think the reason that you're able to get some insights about this is because you have heard stories of these lands and these areas that are beginning to make a lot more sense to you now. I mean, you've heard a lot of stories about these lands. These are some of them that are beginning to make a little bit more sense. And that's I'm trying to frame this in terms of mythology rather than history. The important effect here, the significant aspect, I think, of all of this is that you will give me just a moment. I have to think about this. I mean, success sometimes is also tricky as well as failure. You are looking at what somebody turned into sacred ground, and that these dead are not ravenous, vicious monsters. These dead are protecting the memory, not like a thing, like a magic jewel or something, but protecting the memory of the people who lived here. Furthermore, and this is significant too, the basilisk was sacred to these people. So these are not just random death eyeball lizards, right? The basilisks are sacred to these people. And so you are basically looking at a place that was, other people would call it haunted, cursed, monster infested, but they would say, this is all we have left and we are protecting it.
Right, okay. And those people are still around because that's being maintained? Or is that something that could be maintained?
There's no evidence of that. Yeah.
Okay.
There's no evidence of that.
So now I get to look at my bags of sand and feel really shitty about it. And there is one small thing that you mentioned before, because this is kind of a battle place, but you said also a mass grave. So do we get the feeling that people true bodies here? It's not just bodies lay around, but people amass the bodies in this place.
Yes,
it was a conscious act.
Yeah. That's something you had realized, is that there is these creatures would not exist unless there was a mass of people who had been buried simultaneously.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right. So, good enough, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also have news for you that you may find interesting. As you recall, you had gained some experience from the first session. And I have done some numbers, of course, to discover somewhere, if I can find it. Hold on a moment. Damn it. Because I did calculate the experience points.
You search, we talk. Yeah. This was a great session.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
This was really fun. I mean, we got far.
Really fun.
It was nice. There was a lot of nice, very logical, interactive, emotional development as well. Damn it, it was right here. I know I'm going to find it in a few days.
It was fun because I sat down. I've been thinking about it all the week, and I was going to sit down, and I had some ideas in mind for what would I say and what would happen, and none of that
And
stuff
none of it
happened.
actually
Never do that.
none of it.
No, that's actually an important and interesting point.
Actually, I don't do that. What I do is try to figure out who that person is
Mhm.
I'm playing, like the way
you've mentioned this
she
before.
feels,
Right.
and how she connects to her environment,
Mhm.
things like that. I don't even write backstories or something. It's more like, it's a little bit like if I would be another person.
I
Who
tend to do that
are there?
myself.
And
Yeah.
that's why I usually need about 2 or 3 of even 4 sessions to get into it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
to get a better feeling. And until then, I'm always like, I'm not going to survive the next one. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Speaking
But
of
this actually got me a lot further.
Yeah, I agree. There are aspects of it I think that really help with that, and I am really suffering
Because
here.
before I was like, she's so worried about what Wasser said. It really threw her off, and this is going to risk that she's going to basically run off because she completely misunderstood.
Right.
That's why I asked Euron,
Right,
because
which would
I
have
had
been
this.
okay, but that's not what happens the way you connect.
No,
And
that's the fun.
Right, but I also think it's kind of neat to know that I can only isolate the interactions, not specific acts. In other words, the pipe, the questions, certain statements being made at certain times, each kind of creates it a tighter knot than any one of those would have made, which is nice. Yeah.
That's why it's fun to do this together, because it's so
Absolutely.
much better than if we would sit on our own.